Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Fry, and thank you for joining us at our very first MLS Summer Tech Summit. Thank you for being here today. I think you're in for a great session today here with Andrew, Jen, and Ed. We're happy you're here. We're glad you're a member of and a subscriber to High Central MLS, and I think you're in for a great session. Without further ado, really proud of the program that has been put together with the team or by the team. Hopefully you can join us for all 3 days, but thank you for being here today. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jen. Jen?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Again, like Michael said, thank you for joining us. Today's presentation is going to be focused on providing you details on how the industry's most secure lockbox allows a realtor to be more efficient and implement safety practices when it comes to buying and selling their homes. Our speaker, Andrew Bockelman, is the Senior Client Success Manager at SentriLock, and he has been a part of that organization for 6 years and lives in Springboro, Ohio, near the SentriLock headquarters. So just a few things that I wanted to go over before we get started. One, as questions do come up, please feel free to put those into the Zoom chat for us, and we will go ahead and answer those at the end. Two, the session is going to be recorded, so you guys will be getting a email with that recorded video for you. It is going to be sent from MailChimp. We do recognize that some people have been getting that recently into their junk folder. So just go ahead and make sure to check there if you don't see it by the end of today, and mark that email as not junk so that you'll be able to get the remaining emails moving forward. And then lastly, please make sure to stick around to the end of the session. We are going to be giving a door prize away that was gifted by SentriLock. So thank you, Andrew. It is a Ring doorbell. So Ed, do you want to show that off for us real quick?
All right, right over here. Oh, closer.
There we go. So yeah, it's that Ring doorbell. So you do have to be present to win, but he will go ahead and announce that at the end. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to pass it over to Andrew for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you for High Central MLS for inviting SentriLock to be a part of this event. We do certainly appreciate the partnership that we have with you all, and hope to just keep that continuing going forward. And we appreciate all that you do for us, and hopefully we're doing everything for you to satisfy your membership with our solutions here. So as Jennifer mentioned, today we are going to be covering really what it entails in our lockbox and what it means to you for the security we provide. So we'll dive in a lot of deeper detail into that. So I'm bringing up my presentation here so that we can kind of get this thing started off here. So again, SentriLock, as you know, we are, like Jennifer said, the most secure lockbox in the industry, and we do take pride in that. So hopefully by the end of the day, you'll kind of notice some of the things that we really do emphasize when it comes to our lockboxes and what they really mean to you. So looking at the agenda for today, we're going to go start off by just talking about the lockbox itself. What kind of security measures do we take in ensuring this is actually the most secure solution on the market? Then we kind of jump into more of that trackability, accountability sort of elements of what you could do with our lockboxes to really have that sort of omnipresence and the ability to hold others accountable for what they're doing on the properties and on your clients' properties. And then in terms of getting other people in that are really outside non-high Central MLS subscribers, what can we do? Why are our codes different from any other kind of combination lockbox or mechanical lockbox and that sort of thing? And then finally, we do have some safety features built into our system. We'll touch on the safety feature that we do, the agent safety feature. As well as, and I broadly termed it safety because there are other tools and measures that you can take as an agent to have safe practices. And so there are some things outside of the SentriLock system that I'll just show you and make you aware of, just as general kind of safe practices as you're going out to kind of tie things up here today. So again, this is our agenda, and we'll be here, probably take us about 45 minutes or so to get through this, but We appreciate your time and attention today. In terms of questions, Jennifer may have already referenced this, but do hold your questions to the end for voice, or you can pop them in the chat window anytime throughout, so you don't forget them when they're on your mind. Just pop them in the Q&A, and the High Center MLS team will monitor that. Our panelists will monitor the questions that do come through to us. That way we can get everything and all your questions answered. Towards the end of the presentation, if it's something more pressing, they may bring it up and kind of pause things for a moment to ask questions about some things that we're talking about here today. So anyhow, so on the screen here, really the ultimate question is, why am I sitting here watching this presentation? What is it? What's in it for me? So in terms of the SentriLock lockboxes, I mean, there's a lot here that you see on the screen that we're going to touch on throughout the presentation. But the big thing is a lot of us, in some situations at some different times, we've all probably used mechanical lock boxes, right? It's just something that we've always done. Either, hopefully, most of you have transitioned to all using only electronic, and that's fantastic. We love to hear that. But there are situations where it's just easier and more convenient to just grab one of the mechanical combination lock boxes and throw it on a property. So, I mean, ultimately, what we're talking about here today, and what's in it for you really, is the ability to modernize your business, right? To make things more efficient and increase the success of your sales kind of going forward with the information that we do provide you. So hopefully you'll gather that by the end of this presentation, there's so much information you can kind of extract just from the data and the logs and everything like that in our system that you can utilize going forward for ultimately the trackability, accountability, so you kind of are able to keep your clients in the loop and all that sort of stuff. So, so really, when it comes to our system here, what we're kind of talking about and focusing on is, what is in our tools that really make this, a world-class experience for your customers, right? So there's three main benefits that we really going to address throughout this presentation. One of those is ultimately the detailed tracking of our system, the accuracy and the tracking and the reporting that you have and those sort of tools within our system. We'll touch on that. It just gives you and your clients more transparency and allows you to hold others accountable for what's happening on these on their properties. Another huge benefit we have, number two, would be to really protect the homeowner. So our lock boxes, being the most secure lock boxes in the industry, do provide that ability to protect the homeowners. It also really kind of keeps your clients and you in the loop with what's going on the lock boxes at all times, right? When it comes to mechanical lock boxes, there is that inherent risk, right, that you have. These lock boxes come off the shelf. They maybe the code gets changed, maybe it doesn't. Maybe the code set on the lock box is the same across all your brokerage. So then once somebody knows one code, they know the code for all the lock boxes, right? So there's that inherent risk that you have. And then not to mention with those, mechanical combination lock boxes, whatever you want to call them, the big thing is that ultimately you can watch videos of people kind of breaking into them, but they're so easy to kind of crack and get into that they're just not built with the same materials and durability that our lock boxes are. And then finally, really, our system is kind of an ease of access, right? So, but ease of access to people who are credentialed already. So it kind of takes some of that due diligence off of your hands when we are working with the High Center MLS data and credentialing folks and getting them in. And quite honestly, our means for using the lock boxes to get people in the lock boxes is very easy. I'm sure many of you have probably gone to a combination lockbox, and you have to kind of fiddle with the code. And if it's dark outside, it's hard to see what number it's on and trying to finagle that whole process and then hoping that the lockbox opens. And if it doesn't, where do you go from there, right? You have no other support. That's where we come into play. We have a support line. So if something happens, you can call our support. They can help you get in, right? So there's a lot of benefits to our system that we'll kind of talk through today. In terms of the SentriLock system, so these are our resources, these are our tools. This is what you need really for the system. So you have the lockbox. There's the Bluetooth REALTOR lockbox on the left-hand side here in the picture on the left. The Bluetooth lock boxes are our most recent and up-to-date lock boxes. They allow you to kind of connect directly with the app. So when it comes to getting into them, cell coverage, nothing really matters. You just tell the app to open up the lockbox and it will, right? So pretty straightforward. So the app is the picture in the middle there. So we do operate with Apple devices and Android devices where you download the app from the Google Play Store or the App Store and the Apple on the Apple apps. So for what you need for opening the lockboxes, everything's kind of built within your mobile device. Your mobile device is your device and your main primary work device on the go, right? When you're in your car, you're always doing that, deal with emails and everything like that. So it just really keeps you everything you need at your fingertips there. And then finally, for the additional kind of reporting capabilities I mentioned, for the trackability, reports, those sort of accurate details that you want. If you want more details outside of what we contain and hold in the app, and for more historical past the month and things like that, we do have the website, right, that keeps a log in the history of everything that's happened, over time. So that's our system, just to kind of let you know and lay the foundation for that part of it. As I mentioned, the first topic of discussion here that we're going to talk about is the Lockbox Security. So if you're not aware, we are LCPB certified, which is the Loss Control and Prevention Board of Certification. It's a loss control prevention board. And ultimately, this is the global certification standard for the fire and security industry, right? So it is the highest certification you can get when it comes to terms of security, right? So we have the highest possible rating in that from that board. The big thing, with it is, in order of preparation for this and the materials that go into our lock boxes, I mean, for just to cut the shackle alone, it takes several hundred pounds of pressure with some huge bolt cutters to even get the shackle off, right? And even then, you still have to get in the lock box itself. The lock box, which you look at right there on the right-hand side, that might be a plastic cover right in front of it, right? But underneath of it in the vault where the key compartment lies, is really, it's molded with steel and almost impenetrable with regular tools, right? So when it comes to our lock boxes, and if something happens to our lock box, we have to give the locksmiths a blueprint for the lock box, right? So if you're just drilling into it, there's a high probability that you might hit the key when you're drilling. But there's specific points in our lock boxes where you have to drill it a certain way in order to actually get it to kind of unlatch, right? So it really requires a locksmith and somebody with those kind of strong tools that can actually penetrate our lock boxes and get them open. You can even go out on YouTube and search a video, how strong is a SentriLock lockbox? There's an individual that kind of recorded a video that shows really how much effort it really takes to get in these lock boxes. He's going with tool after tool, and these are heavy duty tools on a workbench that he's using, really just trying to break into this lock box. And it takes so much effort, and you have to know the right points to actually get into it. So by the time any common thief or anybody like that tries to go get into our lock box, they're better off just breaking a window, which they could do anywhere, right? So the materials that go into making these lock boxes are probably the most durable material in the market, when it comes to a lock box put together. Secondly, here we're talking about the kind of credentialing of the system. So as I mentioned before, we get all the data from High Central MLS. Everybody who has been kind of verified and credentialed and all that data comes to us, right? So it's getting stored on our online servers. Everybody kind of gets their own unique credentials to get in. So you make up your own unique credentials. Your credentials are different from everybody else. So it is really controlled. And, and ultimately, in terms of the credentialing, I mean, the lockbox itself does a line of credentialing, and then our online servers pass in that information. So it is kind of a dual credentialing sort of system, to where ultimately it's taking some of that due diligence off you to not have to screen people whenever you have like a mechanical box on there, make sure they're a valid or legitimate person, scheduling an appointment to come out to your property and show it, right? So our system does all that work for you. And in addition, with the mechanical lockbox, we like to call it, that ultimately, when the code is entered on it, you can open it anytime, right? So our system does have limited hours of operation, right? So reasonable times for when people should be getting into a house and when they should not be, right? So our time periods right now from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that just allows you to control, and that lockbox will not open for anybody but the owner of the lockbox between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. Outside of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. Outside of those hours, it's only the lockbox owner that can open the lockbox. So it really keeps people out, in the wee hours of the night who might have, means for getting in. If they have a code, you've given somebody a code, they can use that code pretty much anytime they want to when it comes to the combination or mechanical lockboxes, right? So our system does control the hours of access so that your homeowners can be safe, in the hours when they're sleeping and that sort of thing, right? So, and the other thing is with our codes, our cards, the app, everything that we have in our system as a means for getting into the lockbox, they do adhere to those hours. So there's no code that's going to work outside of that time frame. So in terms of like the codes, we have the time limited access codes, right? So when we say access codes, it's the one-day codes that I'm referencing, right? So those can be generated, and those codes are actually unique by lockbox and unique by day. So as the name implies, it's a one-day code. So when a code is generated for these lockboxes, they're only good for that particular day. Now, when a code is used to kind of take that a step further, they expire after 60 minutes. So that means that any individual has a slotted time to use the code on our lockboxes. And so once they use that code once, it expires 60 minutes later, so that they can't just leave the property and say, let's say they're out showing, you give them a code to go in from the house property at 2 to 3. They do go follow the time instructions that they were supposed to. They open the key compartment at 2 o'clock. That code expires at 3 o'clock. If they leave the property and decide, hey, I want to go back and just kind of revisit this one again, unannounced, our system will block them because that code won't work at that time, right? So it really blocks the re-entry of people using the codes more than once in that given day. So just adds that extra layer of security and then kind of preventing those extra one-off unwanted accesses where people might want to come back and revisit at a later time. So and kind of go into conjunction in the hand with that. The other big thing that is with the every code that you generate does get logged on the access log details. So as you generate a code, it's always important to associate a name, maybe a phone number, contact information, some sort of affiliation, what company they're affiliated. All that information is great details to put out when you're assigning a code to somebody. That way it goes down and gets documented as, that individual who you assign that code to. So you still hold people accountable when you're using our codes. When you're giving out codes for like a mechanical lockbox, for instance, again, that's a situation where you can't keep track of everybody you give a code to, right? So that's hard to really hold down and pinpoint people who have access or have had access to your lockboxes that are sitting on your clients' homes. In terms of the kind of an instant notification and instant gratification of knowing what's happening on your lockbox at all times, when people are using the app, which is what we're transitioning to, kind of the future movement here. So as people are using the app on these lockboxes, you do get that immediate notification once they open the key compartment. So right away, once they open, or even attempt to open or generate a code for it, because the older style lockboxes use like code generation in our app to open the key compartments. Anytime anything happens in the app for that lockbox, you get that instant notification. And there's a setting in our system where you can set up homeowners to receive notifications. That way, this really allows you to take that immediate action, right? So you get that, you see that notification come through, you can act immediately and find out what's going on, why is it happening, and your homeowners can stay in the loop with what's going on at the same time as well. That way you can respond and react much more quickly when it comes to using our lockboxes here with the notifications that we deliver. So those different elements here that I kind of referenced make up really the security of our system and why it's more secure than any other solution on the market. In terms of security, I'm going to flip the slide here. I'll let you give you kind of the progression between what can happen with these lock boxes. And even after all that damage, the vault is still holding the key, right? And the key's still in the lockbox. So on the left-hand side of the screen here, somebody might have taken a hammer or tried to pry the crowbar from the side. You can see some marks over here, maybe even from the top. So they tried to pry it, the case just cracked, and they might have saw inside and say, oh, okay, there's more to it than that, and just stop their attempt from there. This one maybe just gave it a big pull from the side up here up in the corner of the lockbox and just ripped everything off. But again, you can see that the plastic casing here is still anchored to the vault of the lockbox. Other things are still intact there. But on the left-hand side, it looks like they completely just ripped everything off of the face of this lockbox. But again, the key vault here that you see is still holding the key, and they did not penetrate the lockbox to get the key vault out. So hopefully this gives you a good description. You can see some of the dents and bangs where all the work has happened up here on this lockbox. But again, this key inside the vault here stayed safe because of what we make this vault out of and how secure that makes it really be impenetrable. So next section here is, what if something does happen? Now that we've kind of shown you that these lock boxes, really nobody's going to be able to kind of break into them as far as, extracting things. So then it really comes down to, okay, well, if they're not going to break into the lockbox, what do we do if they do get in and, they do open it, or they get into the lockbox and get the keys by means of opening the lockbox? Well, our system does have an excellent and accurate tracking component to it, right? So our access logs, which you'll see over here, you can find in the app. This keeps a running access period of a month at a time. So going a month back and across all the listings you have in our system where lockboxes are assigned to it, you can see that running access log there from the app. If you need further back than a month, then as I mentioned at the very beginning, we have the website that you can go to and download some access reports from there. But accesses are stored both on the lockbox itself and on our servers. So if for some reason an access didn't get picked up right away, it still is sitting on that lockbox until somebody else comes by and accesses the key compartment, and it'll pull all the accesses that haven't been reported on the logs and get them up there, right? So there is that dual recording so that nothing gets missed in terms of recording things on our system. So everything you see in our system should be accurate, and if it's not showing, if there's something in question that's missing, you can always go back out, do an access again, and it'll pull up all the rest of the history that we're missing from that lockbox. So everything is stored and not going to get missed because it's either sitting on the lockbox or sitting on our servers with the access logs there that you'll see front and center here on the app or in the website. As I mentioned before, you do have the instant notifications for when the key compartment opens, as well as the notifications for when the showing ends. So we track the end of showing as well. So if you're not aware of how that's done, we take two things, we factor in a couple different things. One of them is we track your location if you accept that. And as you leave the half-mile radius of the property, we actually send out an end of showing notification on your behalf just to let the homeowners and the listing agents know that that showing is ended and it's safe to return to the home. So those notifications can be nice. We have, when you go to assign a lockbox to a listing, after you complete the assignment, there's a more settings button where you'll step you through like setting up a showing instructions and things like that. And after you next through that, there's an ability to add a homeowner's contact information there. So their name and phone number, that way they can receive those instant notifications along with you. And so that kind of helps communicate to the client what's going on with the lockbox at all times so that you don't have to keep kind of forwarding that communication off to them. They can get it when it happens, right? So in terms of the beginning showing notification, right when that lockbox is open, they receive that. Right when it's open with the app, they receive that beginning of showing notice. And then when they leave the vicinity of the property, leave that half-mile radius, if they've allowed location services to operate on with our app, it'll tell you when that showing is in. Not everybody does that, so we do have picked up another way to end it, and that's if they open another key compartment of a lockbox within 90 minutes, then it'll send off that into showing notice then as well. We do have, again, the extensive log of what we report. So there are things that get documented. So everything that happens on the lockboxes gets documented. So everything from shackle releases, which are stored in the events log, to opening the key compartments, which are stored in the access log. All those sort of important events that you need to see what happened on the lockbox are all get recorded and reported to you, right? So you get the notifications, and after you see that notification, it gets popped right here on the access log, right? So this access log on the app is easy to get to. Once you go into the home screen where it shows open lockbox and you hit that 3-bar menu up at the top left, then there's a link, or there's a section to select that says access log, and that shows you all the history here. But ultimately, I've had associations call me because I manage several different accounts for us, and I deal with the leadership of those associations. And they've called me before in the past, and they've said, hey, we've had this incident come up, and we need to, is there anything we can do? And well, yes, there is. If you use our electronic lock boxes, you can download and print out or extract the data from the access log into an Excel sheet, or just print the log out on a printer, and you can actually submit that as a report to the police department or whoever, just for investigative purposes. So when you're using the electronic lockbox, there is that element of, if something does happen, I've at least got some documentation as a trail for the police to follow, so that they know who's been on the property. Otherwise, you're just saying, well, these people have scheduled, did they open it? I don't know, maybe they should have. They have my code, they could have opened it, and then yeah, that's a harder trail to follow than, here's the accesses, here's who's been in the property, here's what we know. And these are more kind of factual based documentation that you can submit for investigative purposes. We do have the ability, and the nice thing with these access logs, and to go in hand with the listing report that you can kind of download from our website. So the listing report from our website will show all the accesses across all your listings and lockboxes that you have for whatever duration of time you want to check them, right? So, but the access logs here, when you click into any one of these, it shows the contact information of the showing agent. So it shows their name, their phone number, and their email address. Not only that, the listing report that you would generate from the website shows all the same information, and that spits out an Excel document. So ultimately, when you do that, and you can kind of convert it over, and really you've got basically a roster of people who visit your property, right? So it just gives you that ability to work be a productive worker and use that information that we store in our access logs to do follow-ups or prospecting or whatever it may be that you're doing from these active realtors that have gone into your properties with their clients, and follow up with them and see, try to generate interest. So you already have the contact information, and you can follow up directly from your phone. So when you click on one of these accesses here, you can just click on the phone number and dial them up. If you couldn't remember who's been there last, you can actually go into our access log and see that, right? So that's information and resources you have at your fingertips to use for your business, not outside of just the security element here. So at the end of the day, with this trackability, accountability part of this, as I mentioned before, all the data we get from the High Central MLS with all the agents who are authorized in the region. And so basically, our system is already vetting these people through what the data that we receive from High Central MLS. So people who are not authorized to your region ultimately don't get into these lock boxes unless you give them a code. So it really does take some of that due diligence off your hands when it comes to putting a mechanical or a combination lockbox on your property, on your client's listing, to make sure that everybody you're giving a code to can't get in, right? So again, it just takes some of that burden off of you when it comes to keeping people out that shouldn't be in. So I mentioned our access log. So here's a screenshot of the app. Again, it gives you a month by month history of what, what's happening there. This is the access log itself. And when you go in to look up your serial numbers and you click on the access log link from the Lockboxes tab, that's what this little kind of running thing here shows. And then if you do the listing report, like I mentioned, where you go to the reports tab and download a report, the listings report, it actually spits it out in Excel. And so I simply did a little, little chart here off the data. And so if you know Excel at all, know how to work those sort of things, you can get a chart here. So this gives you kind of like a little visual timeline of, accesses and how many occurred on any kind of given date across the date line here. So that just gives you a nice little visual to present to your client about the activity that's going on in the property. So if you don't have any other tools or resources, again, if you can get into Excel, Excel can help you generate reports, and you can kind of give a nice little presentation to your clients that way. So moving on to the, so kind of laying on top of the accountability, trackability piece of this, we do offer the ability to get people inside the system that aren't authorized in High Central MLS. But the nice thing is with our system here is it can still be secure, right? So it's secure temporary access. These one-day codes that we offer, as I mentioned, I kind of specified a couple things about them, but let's dive into that a little bit more detail, right? So again, what it comes down to is you control who goes in that lockbox. In terms of mechanical lockboxes, combination lockboxes, when you give a code to somebody, that code works anytime, right? There's no way you can have to go and like modify and change all the codes of all your lockboxes every time if you want to really keep it like unique to an individual, right? So once you give somebody a code, who's to say they can't just share that with somebody, and then you lose your trail of trackability, right? Whenever you have those codes. So it's really hard to trace down what happened. You do hope the showing agents and everybody on the other end of things are doing what is right. But this using our system and the controlled temporary access really ensures that everything is done how it should be, right? So when you give an agent a one-day code, it's good for 1 day. It doesn't work after that. Once they use it on the property, it expires after 60 minutes. So then even if they did give it to somebody else, they couldn't go in and get it in the property later on that date either. So again, it does allow you the control. And then when you generate the code, you can document who is using the code, putting their name, contact information in the assigned to field. That way there's an accountability with this code to that individual. The one-day codes that we do offer are time limited use, like I mentioned before. They have a duration of 60 minutes once they've been used. They can be used anytime throughout the day, so there is that element, but when it is used, it is documented what time the code is used on the lockbox. So while it can be used anytime throughout the day, it will be documented what time they use the code, so you can go back to the logs and see, hey, they didn't use this code until 3 o'clock whenever they had the appointment for 2 o'clock. So you can kind of see those discrepancies on our system. Going back to what I've mentioned about assigning codes to individuals, every time a code is generated, there's the assigned to field, right? So you just put in somebody's name, contact information there, so that does get documented on the log and can still be used for that kind of factual, here's who that code was assigned to, and here's and our system shows if it has been used or has not been used. That way, for sure, and you can confirm and validate the use of that code, and have that kind of burden of proof there. And again, as I mentioned before in the early slides here, it does follow the access times for your region. So while it is a date code that works anytime throughout the day, it only works in the given times of 6 a.m. To 10 p.m. So that the codes can't be used on weird hours where homeowners might be sleeping or just not around and not really attentive to what's going on around their house. So it does keep people out during the non-business times. In terms of generating these codes, so most of you've seen this, you can use this in the app, right? So if you've been going to the website and doing all this from the website already, there is the capability to do everything you need to do from the app. So you start out by opening the app, you press this 3-bar menu at the top left right here, we call that the hamburger menu. you go to My Lockboxes, you do Get Access Code, select the listing you want to generate the one access code for, and then here's the Assign To field I referenced. You can choose the date, so you can select the code up to 14 days in advance. So choose the date, and then once you get 1 day code, here's the code. It spits it out in this nice little form. So when you click this arrow down, it does give you the instructions on how to use the code. And if you were to click this little icon up in the top right corner, on Androids, it would look like 3 dots with lines connecting through the dots. That'll allow you to forward the code by text to whoever needs it. So code generation from our app is very straightforward, very simple to do. And it allows you to do it from anywhere, anytime, right? So you don't have to be restricted to wait till I get back to my computer and pull it out to generate a code. You can do it all from the app. It really helps make you a worker on the go when you do combine all of our tools together here in one. Final topic of discussion here is the safety. So many of you may be aware and familiar with our agent safety alerts and our agent safety feature on our system. You can always get that launched off anytime. So if you haven't set that up in the past or didn't set it up initially, you can always set that up at a later date, right? So you just go to that 3-bar menu at the top left of the screen. And when you go to settings, there's an actual option for agent safety, and you go in there to enable it. Before you can enable it, you have to add a couple contacts to the agent safety. You have to add a couple of contacts in there so that our system has people to send the agent safety alert to. So once you do get the agent safety feature enabled on the system, what it does is when you open the key compartment using the app, 2 minutes will pass, and what you'll notice is this little pop-up right here comes up on your phone. It gives you 3 options. One is to send an alert if you feel like you're at risk or need kind of somebody to give you a call. And then it says, ask me again in 2 minutes. And so if you ask me again in 2 minutes, I'll go away. It'll come back in 2 minutes, and you just keep confirming that you're safe. And it just gives you that kind of consistent check to let the system know, hey, I'm all good. And then if you feel totally comfortable, you can always hit end agent safety timer. Now with this agent safety timer, if let's say something happens, your phone gets confiscated, the agent safety timer starts. It'll prompt this. It needs your PIN number or Touch ID or Face ID to be able to execute any command here. So if you for some reason can't, what'll happen is it'll go 2 minutes, it'll prompt again. Another 2 minutes, it'll prompt again. If you still do not respond, then it sends in a safety alert on your behalf to the contacts you listed in the system. So the contacts, when I say the contacts you add, it just pulls up your phone book from your phone, and you just kind of select which people in your phone book you want to add there as contacts. And so it sends them a text, and the text contains information saying that they were alerted as the agent contact. And it's a pretty urgent message, so it sends the agent safety urgent in the body or the subject line of the text so that they at least kind of open up and read it. And it'll say that they've been identified as a safety contact, lets them know the actual address of the listing that you accessed. If that lockbox wasn't assigned to a listing, it actually takes the geo coordinates from your phone and sends that along so that when they click on the link to those geo coordinates, it actually puts a pin on the map of where you are. So all that information gets sent out to them with kind of urgent message to give you a call, make sure you're safe, right? So I had the agent from North Carolina one time tell me when I was at a trade show, they said that love your agent safety feature. One time I went out with a client, and normally I do a pre-meeting, we meet at a coffee shop or something like that. And, but for whatever reason, this time I didn't do that. And so we picked up the client, we went out to show the first property. The lockbox is on the front of the house, but the person, that I was taking out, they said, well, go ahead and just park around back. So immediately in her mind, red flags are popping up. Like, what do I do here? This is just really awkward. I don't know why he said that. I don't even want to interpret why. I just want to remove myself from this situation, right? So she opened the key compartment and then had the agent safety feature enabled. Got through that. Just after she opened, they started to go inside, let her phone, just stuck it back in her purse. and let that agent safety timer run its course, right? So 2 minutes went by, prompted again, 2 minutes went by, she still didn't respond, and it sent out alert on her behalf, right? So next thing you know, about 5 minutes later, she had one of her contacts, I think it was her brother or somebody like that, call her. And so she answered the phone and started talking to him because she knew the phone calls was coming. She was anticipating that. And they had a quick discussion. She hung up, told her client, hey, I've got an emergency, family emergency. I have to go. So sorry. Let's continue this another time. And just, so then it was just kind of a discreet way to really just part ways, right? So that was an instance where she used it successfully. Again, we get that this is like a feature that does require some interaction, right? But it's all about what you want out of it, right? Other people actually use this as a means to, let their friends, they get a buddy system and they let them know, hey, I'm going around showing about 5 different properties today. What I'm going to do is open the key compartment and let the agent of safety send you an alert just to let you know where I'm at. Because it does pinpoint or send the listing address of where you're going. So they open the key compartment, just let it go. The alert goes out. That way it's just more of like a tracking mechanism to let their friends know, here's where I'm at going throughout the day, so that they can kind of keep in touch and know, right? So you create that little buddy system and a trail of where you've been all day. So again, there's some other features on our system that can help keep you, or outside of our system, that we'll kind of talk about here in just a moment, that I'll show you kind of screenshots and images of. But the other features outside of our system include the ability to share your location. So again, that's outside of the SentriLock system, but you can share your location with friends. I've got an iPhone and my wife and I share our location with each other. That way I kind of know where she's going and I know when to expect her home. But again, that works for when you're a realtor and you're going out to show properties throughout the day. People can kind of keep track of where you're at. On your phone, if you weren't aware, there is an emergency SOS that really kind of dials out to the police in a quick way. So you don't have to sit there and open up your dial buttons and hit 911 and dial. There's a way to do that. So I'll show those screens here in a minute, but just want to make sure that the point number 4 here, share your location emergency SOS features. Those aren't in the SentriLock system. They're just additional features that it's good to make you aware, right? This is a safety and security presentation, so I thought I'd kind of include this information along with our SentriLock elements. At the end of the day, all the safety that you need is not going to be encompassed in our apps. So NAR has an excellent site, nar.realtor.com/safety. There's a lot of tools you can look through and kind of check out there. So I recommend going to that site. They have a lot of resources for keeping you safe and kind of best practices when you're going out showing properties. And really having a discussion with your colleagues just to see what they do and what they use. There's tools out there that everybody uses that to help them, with safe practices, right? Talk to your friends, see what they use. There's certainly something out there that can help you and make you feel more secure and comfortable as you're going out. So just to kind of give you the screenshots here of what our system entails. So going back here, this message on the left-hand side. So if you have a contact, as I mentioned, it gives that urgent kind of message. When our system, this is a notification from our system that's been delivered when the agent of safety prompts weren't responded to or you sent an alert. So it says it's, Freddie, or it could be Andrew or whoever, the listing agent has identified you emergency contact. And this link up here actually is the geo coordinates of where you are. So as I mentioned, the one text up here shows the geo coordinates if the lockbox is not assigned to a listing. The other text here gives the actual listing address of where you went. So both, either way, if it is the lockbox is assigned a listing or if it's not, it doesn't matter because our system will tell your contacts or whoever you alert where you are. And then if you click the geo coordinates, it just pulls up in Google Maps and pinpoints where you're at on your phone map. As I mentioned, there's additional features outside of our system, right? So I mentioned with the iPhone, you have the ability to share your location with your family and friends. So you just add people as contacts. and you actually follow them on the map and see where they're at through the day. So it's always good to have a buddy system just to let people know where you're going, where you're at, where you anticipate being. So if you're kind of getting in an unfamiliar place or wherever it may be, people kind of know and they can call and check in on you or what have you. So again, sharing your location with your colleagues might be a good idea. Some people might want to be more private, not want to do that. So perhaps they use the SentriLock system as an alert to send off to their contacts. If they want to keep their privacy their own, don't want other people to kind of track them throughout the day. And then, as I mentioned, there's the emergency SOS. So again, this is for the iPhone, but there's 2 buttons on your phone, your power button and the up volume button. When you hold those together for 3 seconds, it'll actually bring up this little swipe screen right here. So SOS emergency would dial out to the police and they'd pick up the phone. In addition, a nice little feature that you have, it might be worth filling out. If you go to look for the medical ID card on your iPhone, you can fill out information. So if you're like a diabetic or something like that, you can kind of put that information in here just as information people know. So if you're not aware, with anybody's phone, you can pick it up and then hold the power button, the volume button together, swipe to see that medical ID card. That way, if they have a condition that you need to know about, this actually would tell you that condition and let you know how to treat that individual, right? So that's good to have for you, good to know for others. So these are just some safety tips, again, that you have already built into your phone. This is built into the iPhone. This has nothing to do with the SentriLock system. It's just good information to know, right? There's also additional safety features in the Android devices. I don't know those as well because I don't have an Android, but there's the ability to they have their own built-in emergency SOS sort of feature here. So it'd be worth kind of looking into how to enable those sort of things on your phones. You always Google that, ask your friends, see what they do. Again, it's better to have something than to have nothing and be prepared for anything that could happen, right? So again, that concludes everything I wanted to kind of discuss today on the SentriLock system. If you need anything, if there's any questions about any of the information that we've gone over today, how to get to the information, how to access, because we really were just trying a more informational session, not a showing session here today. So we do have our support line for the Lockbox system, that 513-618-5800. They are open from 8 a.m. to midnight Eastern time, 7 days a week. So Monday, every day of the week, they're open. The only time we may have a half day or closed, there's only probably 2 occasions throughout the year where we're closed completely, or may have shortened days. But outside of that, those are major holidays. But outside of that, there are support departments open and available to you. So give them a call, get assistance with anything in the app or anything, how to check things that we've discussed today. We also have a YouTube page, youtube.com/SentriLock and the number 1, and/or our help site that gives you step-by-step navigation to enable, check any of these features, and it kind of walks you through. If you have an iPhone or Android, you can select which one you have and kind of walk through the help topics that we have available on our website by going to SentriLock.com/help. So that concludes everything that we wanted to cover today. I appreciate everybody coming here, being part of this session. Hopefully you found some valuable information here to help you kind of equip you to use our system and all the resources that we have available for you. Ultimately, we want you to keep it secure, make sure it's all documented, and help keep you safe, you and your clients safe. So thank you so much. And Jennifer, if there's any questions in here that need to be brought up, I haven't really been monitoring, but if you have been, maybe you kind of bring up some questions that have kind of shown up here.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. So I think some of these questions have been answered, but I do just want to clarify just in case. One of the questions was, is there a way for an agent to access the lockbox between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.? Now, I know you did say that the agent who owns the box that would have access to it outside of those hours. But it does sound like maybe this specific person could not get into that vacant property late at night. But it does sound like they would be the owner of that lockbox. Is that
right? If they're the owner of the lockbox, then they can open the key compartment outside of hours, correct?
Okay, and then if they cannot, is that be like a situation where they would just call SentriLock support to try to get that?
Our SentriLock support will only adhere to the hours of operating times for the association. So probably best if they need to get in, arrange that with the listing agent. If the lockbox doesn't, isn't programmed, it's all programmed to be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So if they run into that situation, just reach out to the listing agent and ask for assistance there.
Oh, no, I mean, it sounds like this is the listing agent that's having.
Oh, yeah. Okay, then if it's their own lockbox, then call support and they'll be able to help them out. Correct.
Okay, cool. If that was not the correct interpretation, please just go ahead and throw that in the chat, but I'm going to move on to the next question. Just for clarification, you did one person, one entry on a one-day code, but with that, can multiple codes overlap in that same time period? So like say I wanted to get access, Ed wanted to get access, but there was maybe like a 10-minute overlap and we weren't in a situation where there shouldn't be overlap. Is that something that's possible?
So with the tools and things like that right now, I think as going on in the future, there will be capabilities open up to block out that sort of overlap. With our codes, it is possible that you can use it and then somebody used a code of theirs at the same time. So they're not really time slotted codes, if that makes sense. They can be used anytime throughout the day and could potentially overlap. But I think the intention is that if you have your time designation, you open it, you can't go back there later and use it during somebody else's session, right? You have to use it during that one-time use sort of thing.
So with that one-time use, then it literally means like one-time use. So like, for instance, if I was the listing agent, Ed was my client, I went in early. Actually, I guess that wouldn't make sense. I think, actually, okay, never mind. That's not a good example. I was gonna say, wait, Ed would not have the code. I would want to open the door for him.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Okay, let's see here. What else do we have? And just to confirm again, if the showing agent is getting or providing access code to a property agent, it would be given either through text or can it also be emailed as well if somebody doesn't want it text, or is it purely through text?
Yeah, when you hit the forward button, it's like just like you'd forward any other message or anything like that from your phone. It'll bring up the menu item of if you want to send it by text, by email, whatever your choice of communication is.
Beautiful. And then next question, can we test for agent safety? If it only goes to the contact you indicated, is the ask me again a silent alarm, or is that simply just, hey, like I'm okay right now, but ask me again in 2 minutes to make sure that I'm still okay? Yeah,
it's so I don't, like, from my experience when I've tested it, I haven't felt it. I think it might do a little vibrate or something. It might do a ding. My phone's always on vibrate, so I don't always get that, complete interaction of what if it would ding or something like that. But it does pop up another banner. So if your phone's locked, it'll pop up a banner with the agent safety prompts and have you respond to it. If you miss the first prompt, it still pops up another banner with the second prompt and kind of just gives you a poke or something like that.
Okay, cool. And then also, I believe something that you talked about earlier with that testing of the agent safety system is to maybe just let your emergency contacts know ahead of time, right? Saying, hey, I am going to be jumping into this property. You are going to receive a text saying that might sound a little bit urgent. It's just me sending it saying, here's my location in the event that something does happen and I'm unable to get to saying I am safe. Right. Is that a correct statement?
Right. It goes either way. So, I mean, the intention of the agent safety is to let people know, notify them when you're unresponsive ultimately. But I did give an alternative to that. So the initial design of the feature was built so that it will send an alert when there's actually unresponsiveness, right? Whenever you can't respond or something happens, then it will send an alert on your behalf. But if you have the intention to use it in the alternative way that I approach that other people use it in as well, as just like a location sharing, then just notify people that that's what you're doing. That way they aren't really alarmed, because it is an alarming message to say urgent, you know, they're here, they didn't respond, that sort of thing. So again, just kind of putting people on notice if you're going to use it. Way.
Okay, so the ask me again is more so just a checking in. It's not a silent alarm. It's only a silent alarm if you did not respond to the first one and then you didn't respond to the second one to say, yes, I'm good.
Correct. The ask me again is going to pop up the same message again in 2 minutes. So you keep, and then it'll say, ask me again in 2 minutes. So every 2 minutes it'll pop up, and then you keep saying, ask me again if you want to keep it going until you have a comfortable feel for the environment where you're at, all is good. Then you can say, don't ask me anymore, and that'll shut it off.
Beautiful.
The option there.
Okay, so a question, what happens if an agent has the old SentriLock box that uses the SentriLock card? I can't update my card. I believe they can still update their cards if they need to, correct or no?
Yeah, for the immediate term, yeah, right.
Okay, cool. How does the owner open the lockbox during the times of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.? Is there a specific way to go about opening it, or should it just automatically open?
Oh, wait, Jennifer, I'm gonna go back to the question. Sorry, this is Ed. So the question was, what happens if the agent has an old lockbox or a SentriLock box and uses SentriCard, right? So if you know your card is damaged, you can contact us, but we're trying to go away with the not using the card. So you can download the mobile app. You still can use the mobile app to open up those old lockboxes as well.
Thanks, Ed. Sorry. Yeah, so from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., how would the owner go about opening it? Like, should it just automatically open for them, or?
Right, for the lockbox owner, who sees that, the lockbox knows they're their owner, and the lockbox will open for the lockbox owner during, you know, outside of the normal operating business hours. Is that
okay?
Sure.
So, I believe that's what the question is asking. So essentially, I think what Andrew was saying previously is if you are the lockbox owner and it does not open for you between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., to call tech support, and then they should be able to help you with doing that. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That might be out. I'm trying to think of the time difference here. Our support hours won't open. So like closer to the 6 a.m. hours, but 10 p.m. I guess, you know, support is only till midnight Eastern time. So they technically wouldn't be open at that point. But ultimately the lockbox should operate when you go to it and open it outside of those times. If it doesn't, there's something going on with the lockbox itself that you probably need to check and make sure that there's no weird inconsistencies with it. You know, maybe check back in normal business hours, but ultimately our system is designed so that the lockbox owner can open it anytime, no matter what the operational hours are.
Beautiful. Okay. And then, sorry, we're trying to wrap up these questions. How does the contractor code work? It sounds like that code currently for this person is the same for all of their boxes, but it's not populating.
I'm not really sure. I mean, the contractor code is a feature that has been sunset in our system. Just the way, where SentriLock is going in the future, there's other features that are kind of replacing that at this point. So that's a feature that is really no longer in use. We want to get away from the permanent codes, just like, kind of a mechanical lockbox where, you have a code that stays the same always, kind of complying with some of the NAR rules. So we're moving away from those stagnant codes that work all the time, anytime kind of situations. Okay,
and then this is the last question, so thank you. If someone does not have a lockbox that's a Bluetooth lockbox that isn't functioning properly, and they've called support several times on it, what should they do?
So the lockbox is not functioning properly, and they've called, and then support what has not helped them, or I mean, support has the ability that if if the lockbox, when you're troubleshooting, when you call them, they'll troubleshoot the lockbox with you. And ultimately, we rely on their recommendation on what to do with the lockbox. So whatever steps and instructions our support team provides you as a step going forward, maybe there's some communication gaps and what they're seeing, interpreting versus what's actually happening. So just maybe providing clarity to our support department so they can give the actionable steps going forward as to what to do with that. Does that
I mean, I hope, yeah, I hope that answers the question for this person. If not, you can always reach out to client care or the SentriLock support team, and I'm sure that they can probably give you a better roadmap in terms of what to do if you're consistently needing help getting that box running again. Would that be a correct statement?
Right. If there's something wrong with the lockbox and you call our support end and you troubleshoot, it fails, what they should be doing is creating noting the defect in the ticket. And then when you have that ticket, you just take it to the board office and present it to them, showing that it says defect, and you can get a replacement through the warranty policy if the lockbox is covered under warranty.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, well, thank you so much for answering those questions for us, Andrew. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you did find some great takeaways from Andrew's presentation. And I really do hope you join us for our upcoming sessions tomorrow and Wednesday on the other aspects of security. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Ed so he can run the drawing for today's Ring Doorbell Door Prize. So Ed, go for it. Take it away.